Shapiro, I got to be honest. I've been doing radio for 20 years. That was one of the craziest segments I have ever done in my life.
I mean, bottom line, man, you handled it really, really well.
We just had Kim Goldman on the line, and O.J. Simpson's attorney just called in unexpected. That was wild. Boy, what a segue. We go from that, and now we're going to talk some Wimbledon tennis. But I do want to say this. I did not know Malcolm was going to call in. We will continue this conversation tomorrow on the show, but that was a crazy segment. Speaking of craziness, right, the guy we have with us on the line right now, he is our tennis guru, and his name is Barry Brandt. He gave out 2 winners to us on Friday. He said that Serena Williams was going to lose in the finals. He was right. He also picked Novak Djokovic to win, and I got to say, that men's final might have been the best tennis match I've ever seen in my life. I watched it start to finish. Barry Brandt joins us, our tennis guru. Barry, how's it going?
Hey, Barry.
Incredible. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. So, Barry, let's start with the men. And by the way, you gave us 2 winning picks, so congratulations on that. I watched that tennis match. I woke up at 6 a.m. To me, it is the best tennis match I have ever seen. 5th set tiebreaker. Roger Federer is up 40-15. He had 2 match points on his serve. He loses those 2 points. Somehow, Djokovic breaks him, comes back, wins the match. Have you ever seen anything like it?
I really never have. It's seen a lot of close matches, and everything is measured by inches and fractions. And in this case, it was just one procedure following another, and it just led to what the final outcome with Djokovic, because of his fortitude and his eyes completely on what the final goal is. Mm-hmm. I've never seen anybody that strong in concentration in my life.
Now, look, Federer at the age of 37, to play the way he played at the level he played is insurmountable. It's unbelievable. It's unhuman, I guess is the word I would use. However, with that being said, I'm just going to go out and I'm going to say this. I believe he choked. When you have an opportunity with your service game, I think you could make the argument it was the most important service game of his career. I think you could say that if he won, to me, it would have been the biggest win of his career. You can make a lot of arguments on that. He could have retired and off into the sunset, winning Wimbledon at 37. He had it on his serve at 40-15. And while he's going to go down as one of the best to ever play the game, I think, in a sense, at least that game, it was a little bit of a choke job. Do you think that is fair to say?
There is no question about it. I think he felt the power that Djokovic had as well, knowing that it would not be the easiest thing to get to the finish line. It was you could actually feel it. Everybody watching the match felt it as well. It was just it was truly incredible. I mean, and I couldn't have any more respect for a gentleman, for even Djokovic said at the end as well. But what happened was it was a forced choke, in my opinion.
Do you think it was the best match ever in the history of the sport of tennis?
I do.
Wow.
I've seen a lot of matches, and I mean a lot of matches. Nothing with the heart and the total imagination of how to just make it work. It was just everybody was on their seats, on the edges of the seats. It was just. I'm almost speechless to think about.
No, it was incredible.
What we just saw. It was, and it will go down as mm-hmm. just historical across the board. And you're right. If Federer had won it, it would have made things a lot more mm-hmm. eventful for him. But I do believe that he has. He actually, in with his family and everything, he won in his own way. It was just a case of seeing what was done.
Do you think that Novak Djokovic has a chance to go down as the best male tennis player of all time?
I actually do, and it's against all polls and everything else, but it is a case of winning matches and doing things unheard of. Going from one extreme to another and just taking it to another level in his, and that's all he talks about, and you could see it as well, but his court savvy and also his fortitude. He had a lot of people against him, and he could feel it, and he didn't choke. He didn't do anything to show any type of emotion. That was truly an incredible feat from someone that was I was so much against.
This match was so crazy that I don't even follow tennis at all. I literally know very little about it, and I had several people tell me how crazy this match was. People that literally care nothing about the sport were interested and are now interested in tennis just because of this match.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right, and that is everything when it comes to a feeling that people have where it's not just one side to another. It's the emotions involved. It's everything that it takes to be great. They saw greatness, and greatness. You know, you have the people like Ili Nastase, and you have Kyrgios, and I like to say that they actually help with the way that people enjoy the game more because there's more antics and things like that. But when it's pure emotion and giving everything that you have, it means so much. And I have never seen it. And like I said, I've watched tournaments with Jimmy Connors and everything else, and him saying, "This is what they want. I'm giving them what they want." I don't know if anybody remembers that, but he.
Oh, Brian knows. Brian remembers that.
And basically, what they just did is, rather than saying anything, they just put it all out on the court, and it was totally an enjoyable match. I can't even imagine anything more exciting than what happened with the outcome as well as the total match.
JD brings up interest in the sport, Barry, and of course, every year at Wimbledon there seems to be a monstrous story, right? And this year, of course, it was the 15-year-old American, right, out of Florida, and Coco Gauff. Wanted to get your perspective on her and what she's able to bring as far as interest to the women's side of things, given her young age and what she was able to have success over there across the pond.
Well, with a phenom like that, it's the sky's the limit, and it just goes to show what is coming up in tennis. But the most amazing thing is how our great players are always there. They're always showing up in the finals. They're always there. And when you have a player like this, there's just so much to look forward to for her, and her court savvy at her age, and her ability to be able to anticipate and just be able to get through the match is amazing.
No doubt.
You can imagine the kind of pressure that she's under. But that just goes to show that when somebody has that much confidence, again, mental fortitude, it is true. It's something to behold, I have to say.
No doubt. I'll say this, Barry. You are 100% in your tennis picks on the Vegas Take. You are 2-0, my friend.
That's not a bad record.
You called
there are worse records.
You called up on Friday. You called it. You called the dog. She ends up winning, and you called that one, and you called Djokovic. You are 2-0. So I'm going to tell you something. We are going to call you up before a couple days before the next major, and you're going to give out some more picks for us.
You are
all
our
right?
major guy. And you know what? Dennis Silvers this week has a lot to live up to.
The golf guru. That's true. All right. Well, Barry, thank you so much for calling in, as always. We appreciate it, my man. And I hope we can have you on again before the next major.
Oh, believe me, it was my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
They were wonderful matches.
Appreciate that.
Thanks
you,
a lot, Barry.
There you go. That is the tennis guru for the Vegas Take, Barry Brandt, who gave us 2 picks, and he was right. I'm sorry, fellas. My head is still spinning from that last segment we just did. But wow, that was wild. Let me say this. If you missed the interview we just did last segment.
Let me explain it.
Yeah.
So we have an interview set up with Kim Goldman, who is Ron Goldman's sister. Ron Goldman was one of the 2 people that were brutally murdered by not presumably, but there are many people that believe that O.J. Simpson was the one who murdered them. In the middle of that interview, Malcolm, how do you say his?
Don't recall his last name.
Malcolm, O.J. Simpson's attorney.
Laverne, I think is his last name.
Malcolm Laverne calls in the middle of the interview and asks Kim Goldman a couple of questions because Kim Goldman had been calling out Malcolm Laverne on the internet to come on her podcast, or to have OJ come on the podcast, and the response was it'll cost you $1 million, et cetera, et cetera. So those 2 actually get in a borderline argument in the middle of this show.
Well, that's kind of what it was. I mean, that's what it was. I just
Totally unexpected.
No, we did not know that OJ's attorney was going to be calling in. Nobody here knew that was going to happen, and that is exactly why I asked Kim if it was all right. I'm almost speechless because I've never experienced anything like that. That was a little wild. There was obviously a lot of emotion involved there. That was a little crazy. I guess we'll take one quick call in this segment. Let's go to Brian. Brian, what's up?
Hey, Brian.
Well, guys, if I were you, I'd be sending flowers to Kim Goldman. That was one of the biggest blindsides, the most disrespectful way to treat a guest I've ever heard on the radio. And I expect a whole lot more from you two guys.
Whoa, hold on a second.
You don't ask her that question on live radio. You should have taken a break.
Okay.
Asked her if she's okay to
first
talk
of all,
to the guy.
hang up on Brian.
That's
Hang up on Brian, first of all. Okay, let me respond to that. First of all, I asked her respectfully.
He definitely asked her, first and foremost.
If she said no, I would not have taken the call. That's number one. Number two, Kim Goldman has asked Malcolm to come on her podcast. So don't make it like this is somebody that she didn't want to talk to, Brian, because that's BS. Number three, you don't tell us how to do a radio show. You're not our producer. If you don't like it, you don't have to listen. But yet you take the time to call up and criticize what we did? Well, shame on you. Shame on you.
You were incorrect. Brian definitely asked Kim Goldman if it was okay.
And Brian,
look,
you're making it seem like she was an absolute. She fired back. She was not some wilting flower. She came back and engaged in conversation with Malcolm on a number of subjects. So it's not as if this was just some kind of all-out assault by Malcolm on the radio, Brian. So you got to characterize it the way that it actually went down, and not what your perception is.
That's completely ridiculous.
And it wasn't scripted. It wasn't planned. We had no idea this was going to take place.
No, I had no idea either. But if O.J. Simpson's attorney calls in while I have a Goldman on the line, you're damn right I'm going to ask them if it's okay. If Kim Goldman had said, no, I don't want to talk to him, you think I would have taken the call? No. Absolutely not. And that is why I asked that question, whether it's live radio or not. She is the one that wanted him on her podcast. She is the one that wanted to talk to him and or O.J. Simpson. This is not somebody that she did not want to talk to. I was a little bit surprised when she didn't have that much to say, and then eventually she did have some things to say. So to say that it's disrespectful to a guest, to say that I was disrespectful in any way or anyone on the show was, I completely and categorically disagree with you on that. I think I was absolutely as respectful as I could have been in that situation.
And I think it's fair to say also, Brian and JD, that it is regretful to us that it ended that way, where she hung up that way.
Right.
And
I
was
wish
upset,
that didn't happen.
Right?
Yes.
That is something that is that could be handled differently.
I wish that didn't happen.
Don't characterize that with the entire episode that went down, and that's because that's not how it was.
That's ridiculous. And look, if Malcolm wants to come on the show in the future, I'll gladly do it. If Kim wants to come on the show in the future, I'll gladly do it. I'm always fair to all the guests that come on this show. I always have been. I always will. And I feel like I was very respectful to her, and she could have said no, she didn't, and that's the way it ended. And like you said, Chris, I'm sorry that it ended the way it did. Hey, quickly, before we go, we only got about 30 seconds here. Our show is moving August 12th, 9 a.m. to noon. We're very happy about that. Very excited. Tomorrow on the show, we got Hall of Famer, boxer, and I guess the trainer to Manny Pacquiao. Freddie Roach will be joining us. We got to go, everybody. Have a great night. The legend himself, Ken Thompson, coming up next, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the Vegas Take. Have a great night.